Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. The Senate passes the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and shifting focus to the larger $3.5 trillion plan. What challenges do the bills face from both Republicans and Democrats? All active duty military members will be required to take a CCP virus vaccine, according to a new memo issued by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. The memo says the deadline to get vaccinated will be in the middle of September or sooner. State lawmakers are meeting to discuss impeaching New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. But what does his lawyer have to say in his defense? And Canada opens its borders to vaccinated Americans for non-essential travel, though the U.S. border remains closed to Canadians for non-essential travel. The Senate just passed the $1.2 trillion infrastructure package, 69-30. Next, it'll go to the House, where they will debate and vote on it late September after their summer break. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
The Senate voting Tuesday morning on the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill after months of talks. The bill includes some $550 billion in new spending on more traditional infrastructure.
It has taken quite a long time, and there have been detours and everything else, but this will do a whole lot of good for America.
And Senate Democrats plan to move on to the next phase right away, the $3.5 trillion budget resolution, dubbed Human Infrastructure. It's set to include home and child care, free community college, universal pre-K, paid leave, and even a pathway to citizenship for certain illegal immigrants.
On our side of the aisle, we know we need both tracks. One dealing with traditional infrastructure, one dealing with climate and the problems American families face.
Democrats want to pass the larger bill through reconciliation. That means theoretically they could pass it without any Republican support if all Democrats vote in its favor. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell warning that the GOP won't raise the national debt ceiling if there's no Republican input.
They won't let Republicans have any say in this monstrosity, but they want our help raising their credit card to make it happen.
Republican Senator Rick Scott says he's worried that all this spending will lead to more inflation and saddle Americans with an overwhelming amount of debt.
I mean, our government has just ruined the ability for people without a lot of money to survive.
It's also raising concerns among some Democrats, including Arizona Senator Kristen Sinema. She previously said she doesn't back the bill as it stands now, but added that she would negotiate on the issue. After the Senate's done with the smaller bill, it goes to the House. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said the bipartisan bill will go nowhere until the Senate passes the larger bill. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
The New York State Assembly is discussing impeachment proceedings against Governor Cuomo. They're reviewing the AG report and conducting their own inquiry into his actions. The State Assembly's Judiciary Committee will hold 2 executive sessions to discuss its impeachment inquiry of Cuomo. It will also hold 2 public hearings where experts will testify on sexual misconduct and the impeachment process. The Speaker of the New York Assembly said now that the Attorney General's report is out, they are working quickly to finish their own investigation.
As I stated last week, the governor has clearly lost the confidence of the majority members of the New York State Assembly.
The committee's meeting follows AG Letitia James's report that found Cuomo sexually harassed 11 women. A chair on the committee said Cuomo will be treated fairly as per the governor's lawyer's request.
The governor and his lawyers have responded to the Attorney General's report repeatedly, and we will review those statements and submissions and allow the governor to provide further information should he choose to do so.
Cuomo's lawyer, Rita Glavin, pointed to one section of the AG report. It said senior staff and law enforcement around Cuomo denied witnessing any sexual or inappropriate behavior from the governor. Glavin also attempted to discredit the report as a whole.
Upon my read of the report, and I've said this a number of times, it was very clear to me that they got some facts wrong. It was clear to me that they did not include information that was exculpatory for the governor, or helped to put things into context.
What's more, the Assembly Speaker said this is the first time in 100 years that an impeachment investigation against a sitting governor is underway. There was speculation that the Speaker might make a deal with Cuomo on impeachment if the governor decided not to run for a 4th term, rumors he denied.
I am not negotiating any deals. Like I said, I read that in the newspaper. I'm not part of any discussions or plan to be part of any discussions about cutting deals.
Some former advisors to the governor say it's likely he'll resign since his top aide, Melissa DeRosa, quit. And the Judiciary Committee is expected to issue recommendations to the legislature on whether they should proceed with impeaching Cuomo within several weeks. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin says that all active duty U.S. military personnel will be required to get a CCP virus vaccine soon. Some members of Congress are urging Austin to wait until the vaccines are fully approved before implementing a mandate. NTD's Colin Fredrickson has the story.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin issued a memo Monday telling military personnel that a vaccine mandate is coming no later than the middle of next month. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby confirmed the plan.
You can consider this memo today as what we would call in the military a warning order to the force that this is coming and we want you to be ready for it.
Austin says he'll ask the president to approve the mandate by mid-September or when the FDA fully approves the vaccine if that comes sooner. The memo didn't mention any exceptions. Kirby says Austin may decide to accelerate the mandate if necessary.
The Delta variant is a factor in that, so we're going to watch it closely. And as the secretary told the force today, if he needs to act sooner than this timeline, then he'll do that.
President Biden says that he supports Austin's plan. Representative Mark Green and 15 additional Congress members wrote to Austin telling him that he has no authority to create a mandate until the vaccines are fully approved by the FDA. They say issuing a mandate for an emergency use vaccine would be an unprecedented violation of federal law. Dr. Anthony Fauci told NBC that he hopes some of the vaccines will get full approval in the next few weeks, and he expects a flood of vaccine mandates will follow. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
4 U.S. lawmakers are urging U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland to prohibit prosecutors from seeking the death penalty. That, as the Justice Department reviews whether the government's methods of capital punishment are fair and humane. Garland put a moratorium on capital punishment for federal defendants early last month. House Democrats Jerry Nadler of New York, Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, Adriano Espaillat of New York, and Cori Bush of Missouri sent a letter to Garland Monday. In it, they wrote, "Continuing to seek capital sentences undermines the entire purpose of the review and is a conflict of interest." The lawmakers said, quote, "The Department of Justice attorneys could not facilitate a good faith, objective review while being responsible for arguing in favor of executions to judges and juries." The Justice Department has not responded to a request for comment. There are currently 49 men on federal death row. Robert Durst, who has been accused of murder, denied killing his longtime confidant, Susan Berman. The multimillionaire real estate heir testified in his own defense at Los Angeles Superior Court Monday.
Accused murderer and real estate millionaire Robert Durst denied he killed his friend as he testified in court on Monday. 78-year-old Durst first gained wide public attention in the 2015 HBO documentary series The Jinx. He's accused of fatally shooting his longtime confidant, Susan Berman, in December 2000 because of what she might have known about the unsolved disappearance and presumed killing of his wife. Durst's lawyers, who have sought to dismiss the case because of his poor health, walked the jury through his many health problems during testimony on Monday. Sitting in a wheelchair in Los Angeles Superior Court, Durst denied the charges.
Bob, did you kill Susan Berman?
No.
Do you know who did?
No, I do not.
Berman was found murdered at the age of 55 in her Beverly Hills home. That came just a couple of months after New York police reportedly reopened an investigation into the disappearance of Durst's wife, Kathleen, who was a medical student when she vanished in 1982. Durst was arrested a day before the finale of The Jinx, which documented both cases, as well as Durst's 2003 acquittal in the killing and dismemberment of a neighbor in Texas. He was then caught on microphone making what many assumed to be a confession to the killings. If convicted, Durst faces a maximum sentence of life in prison.
Victims of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuses have now received compensation. About 140 eligible claimants together received more than $120 million.
The fund providing restitution to victims of Jeffrey Epstein said on Monday that the claims process was finished and that it awarded nearly $125 million to about 150 people. In a statement, the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund said 92% of eligible claimants accepted their compensation offers and said, quote, every claimant had an opportunity to be heard in a safe space to share the intimate, personal, often harrowing accounts of what they endured and how it has affected them. The fund received about 225 claims, more than double the 100 it expected. It turned away about 75 claimants, though they can still pursue claims against Epstein's estate, which once held more than $630 million. The announcement of the payouts came one day before the second anniversary of Epstein's death. The disgraced financier killed himself at age 66 in a Manhattan jail cell on August 10, 2019, while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. He had signed his will 2 days earlier. Epstein's longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, is currently awaiting trial on charges she groomed and trafficked underage girls for Epstein. The 59-year-old has pleaded not guilty to the charges and faces up to 80 years in prison if convicted. Her trial in Manhattan could begin in November.
Britain's Prince Andrew was sued on Monday for, on 3 occasions, allegedly having sexually abused a woman who says that she was trafficked for sex by the late financier Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia Giuffre alleges that she was trafficked to the Duke of York by the late financier Jeffrey Epstein and sexually abused and battered by him when she was 17 years old. In a statement, Giuffre said, "I am holding Prince Andrew accountable for what he did to me. The powerful and rich are not exempt from being held responsible for their actions." Queen Elizabeth's second son has previously said that he had no recollection of meeting Giuffre and denied her public allegations. Giuffre is suing the Duke under the Child Victims Act, a New York state law allowing many child abuse victims to pursue claims against their alleged abusers, even if their abuse occurred decades earlier. The Duke is one of the most prominent people linked to Epstein's and their friendship, and has caused embarrassment to Britain's royal family. In Virginia, the state's effort to distance itself from its Confederate legacy is moving from statues to street names. But the proposed changes could cause headaches to residents and businesses. NTD's Don Ma has the story.
Many southern states have chosen to remove Confederate statues. In Virginia, that effort is moving to other arenas, like town and street names. Walter Alcorn is on the Board of Supervisors for Fairfax County. He says the names honor the Confederate ideology.
We went through a period in history after the Civil War in which there was a lost cause mythology that glorified the Confederate leaders, glorified the Confederacy, glorified that way of life, and minimized slavery.
Historians have argued that Confederate monuments and symbols should be retained for historical purposes. Author Catesby Lay argues in The Federalist that once Confederate symbols are removed, activists will simply move on to erase other aspects of history that they don't like. He says Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and others will be next. Coran Sains serves on the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. He says the Confederate history will be preserved without the street names.
We will remember what they were about, and we do not need to honor them with any statues or street names, because we do teach it in our history lessons in our schools. So
Alcorn and Sains agrees that proposed changes will be a hassle for residents and businesses who have to change their addresses and figure out what to do about legal paperwork like deeds, and that the changes would add work for governments that have to replace the signs. Alcorn says he thinks the dialogue involved in the process is as valuable as the end result. Don Ma, NTD News.
An Arizona state senator facing multiple felony child molestation charges was a key sponsor of a bill calling for sex education classes for children as young as kindergarten. Tony Navarrete was one of 9 senators to sponsor the Democrat-led bill. The bill would require all schools in Arizona to teach medically accurate sex education from kindergarten through 12th grade. And to discuss LGBTQ issues, decisions about sex and sexual consent. Peers described Navarrete as a rising star in Arizona's Democratic Party. Arizona's Democratic Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, tweeted that the allegations against Navarrete are incredibly disturbing. She says he should resign immediately. The bill is not expected to come up for a vote in Arizona. Canada opened its border for Americans to shop, vacation, or visit on Monday. But for now, the U.S. maintains restrictions for Canadians, part of a slow return to normalcy from pandemic travel bans. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
U.S. citizens and legal residents must be both fully vaccinated and test negative within 3 days to get across Canada's busy border. And Canadian officials warn they won't sacrifice safety for shorter crossing wait times. Travelers must also fill out a detailed application on the Arrive Can app before crossing. On Monday morning, Lawyer Ramage waited for an hour and a half to enter Canada. She holds dual citizenship, but her Canadian passport had expired.
I'm coming to visit my family. It's been a couple years since the start of the pandemic, and all of my mother's up here, and my brother and sister-in-law and my niece and nephew. So I'm going to just go and spend a couple of days with them, and I'm looking forward to a warm hug.
Further down the line, Vincent Powell was driving a pickup truck hauling a trailer. He had traveled from Utah.
Trying to take care of my late aunt's estate. She passed away last year during COVID, and this is the first time I'm actually able to get in.
The U.S.-Canada border has been closed to non-essential travel since March 2020. Across the border, businesses are happily awaiting the return of American customers, but U.S. restrictions for Canada remain in place. Canadians used to come to Blaine, Washington to buy milk, gas, and pick up shipments in town.
I just hope that the U.S. in return opens the border, at least partially, for fully vaccinated people. I mean, the government's been good about helping small businesses, but we're unique because we rely on the Canadians and everybody else is opening.
The U.S. has said it will extend its closure to all Canadians making non-essential trips until at least August 21st. The policy also applies to the Mexican border, but the Biden administration is beginning to make plans for a phased reopening, with vaccination as the main requirement for entry. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Just ahead, people protest against Purdue Pharma's bankruptcy deal. The protesters think not enough is being done to punish the family behind the company. Find out more here on NTD News. Dozens of demonstrators gathered outside the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in White Plains, New York, to express their opposition to Purdue Pharma's bankruptcy plan. The protest comes amid numerous lawsuits related to the opioid epidemic.
Let me tell you something. Purdue is bankrupt, but the Sacklers are not. And they should not be granted any privileges. Speak to what it is. They are opioid profiteers who have caused mass death, and they sit pretty in this court. And it's not right.
Many of the demonstrators have lost loved ones to opioid overdoses. A judge will start hearing the bankruptcy case on Thursday. The hearing will take as long as a couple of weeks. Purdue is seeking bankruptcy protection to settle about 3,000 lawsuits it faced from state and local governments and other entities. The government lawsuits say the company's painkiller, OxyContin, contributed to nearly 500,000 deaths in the U.S. over the last 2 decades. The wealthy Sackler family members who own Purdue are contributing $4.5 billion in cash and assets towards settlements and drug treatment efforts. But protesters think it's unfair that the Sacklers are not facing criminal charges, and neither has the family admitted wrongdoing. New Yorkers made some noise, rallying for medical freedom and protesting an upcoming vaccine mandate. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from Manhattan.
Save New York! These New Yorkers started the week off with a rally for medical freedom right outside City Hall.
They cannot arrest everybody. It has to be freedom over fear, liberty or death.
Fear of infectious epidemics was exactly what the Nazis used to demonize Jews as spreaders of disease. Today, the unvaccinated are being accused of being spreaders of disease.
In about a week, New Yorkers will have to show they're vaccinated if they want to dine in or hit the gym. Mayor Bill de Blasio says this is about keeping New Yorkers safe.
We said it was time to have a vaccination mandate so everyone in public service would be safe and help keep us safe. And now, what we've said with the Key to NYC Pass, we want people to enjoy this beautiful city, the indoor dining, the entertainment, everything, but we need you to be vaccinated.
But many of these rally-goers are here to protest the mayor's plan.
And now they're talking about vaccine passports here. Do you like vaccine passports?
Vaccine passports, we can burn them.
Something in me feels really wrong to cut people out of society.
Vaccine mandates have already been put in place in Israel. They're very strict with all of their mandates, and they have seen spikes regardless. This is not about health. I think everybody knows that.
Others say the CCP virus vaccines aren't for everyone and encourage people to consult their doctors before getting it.
So we're here in New York City, and right next to me here is Bono. I met him here at this medical freedom protest, and Bono tells me that his father got vaccinated, and after he got vaccinated, he ended up having a serious medical problem. Could you talk to me about what happened, Bono?
Yes, you're supposed to be monitored for clotting, and he ended up having a stroke, and a Pons bleed, and he's in the Westchester Medical Hospital right now.
And do you think it's because he was vaccinated?
Absolutely. There was nothing wrong with Dad before that. Absolutely nothing. He had diabetes, and that was it.
How long after he was vaccinated did this happen to him?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Wow. And have the doctors said this was because of the vaccine?
They refuse to admit that.
But you feel it is because of the vaccine?
Absolutely. It's not for everybody. I would say to people to do their homework and make sure if they have prior conditions to kind of talk it over with their doctors and make informed decisions.
My body, my choice.
So Mayor Bill de Blasio's key to NYC is supposed to go into effect on August 16th. So at that time, people will have to show proof of vaccination in order to dine indoors or go to gyms, just to name a few examples. And it's supposed to be enforced in September. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
More than 6,300 pounds of Panera Bread's ready-to-eat chicken tortilla soup have been recalled. The 16-ounce containers may have been contaminated with glove pieces. The USDA notice says soup maker Blount Fine Foods received several consumer complaints reporting pieces of gray nitrile glove in the product, but no reports of illness. The recalled soup was made on July 1st and has a use-by date of September 9th. Customers who bought it are being told to throw it away or return it to the store. Still to come, the Dixie Fire in the Sierra Nevada mountains reaches the town of Greenville, California. The fire has been active for 26 days and is only 21% contained. More on that in just a minute.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here with a new message about your Medicare benefits. You may be entitled to transportation, meals, and expanded coverage for dental work that includes extractions, fillings, and dentures, all at no additional cost. Plus, depending on your zip code, you may be entitled to the Medicare benefit that adds money to your Social Security check every single month. Call and get everything you deserve. Call now. It's free.
I'm on a fixed income, so I called to get money added to my Social Security check. They helped me so much.
I called to save money on co-pays, get prescriptions, transportation, and my dental work covered. I couldn't believe I was spending money I don't have to spend.
Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline, and you can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Heads up, the Federal Emergency Management Agency will be testing its National Emergency Alert Systems on Wednesday afternoon. But don't be alarmed. The agency said it's just part of regular testing. FEMA says the test has been planned for more than a year. Wednesday at 2:20 p.m. Eastern, the emergency alert test will be sent to televisions and radios. It will last about 1 full minute. A wireless alert will be sent to those who've opted in on their phones to receive text messages. And this just in, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is resigning from his post. The decision follows allegations he sexually harassed a number of women, prompting several top lawmakers to call for his resignation, President Biden among them. Cuomo denies wrongdoing. He'll leave office in 14 days. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, a Democrat, will serve the rest of his term. 4 people reported missing have now been found after the Dixie Fire scorched the historic town of Greenville in California last week. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Residents of the historic California gold rush town of Greenville have been left in ruins after their town was completely destroyed by a raging wildfire in the Sierra Nevada mountains. As Greenville residents evacuated, grim images from the burnt-out center of town spread.
Gone. It's gone. There's several times in the last week I've wished I could just go home. And then I remember you can't go home. There's nothing to go back to. Even if the house survived, like pretty much the rest of town is gone. There's no power, there's no water, everything's gone.
Greenville was founded more than 150 years ago when nearby gold mines attracted settlers and merchants. Greenville, population 800, sits about 160 miles north of Sacramento. The Dixie Fire is burning northeast of San Francisco and has spread to nearly 800 square miles. That's according to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection.
And so I get out to the end of Pex Valley Road and I'm looking across Greenville, and there are these towers of flames several times higher than the trees coming down the hill toward Greenville. So it was just very clear at that point that it was get out or be at risk of being gone.
The burned area is about the size of Cancun and larger than Houston. The blaze has been active for 26 days and is 21% contained. Fire activity intensified on Sunday amid low relative humidity and strong southwest winds in the west zone, on top of warm temperatures and low humidity in the east zone.
We've seen some folks who have come to a shelter for just a few days to return home, to come back again because of those evacuation warnings. So there's a lot of uncertainty for some folks who might not know what the status is of their home or what they're going back to.
More than 5,000 firefighters are currently tackling the Dixie Fire. Only the August complex fire of 2020 in California was bigger. That blaze consumed more than 1 million acres. So far, no deaths have been reported. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
In Northern California, the River Fire scorched over 100 structures. It is 68% contained as of Monday. Firefighting takes coordination, and this is done in a centralized base camp. NTD's David Lamb speaks with a public information officer at the camp.
I'm at the Auburn Fairground parking lot where firefighters each day go through to get resources from their base camp. Let's take a look.
So every major incident in California, right now there's currently over 10 fires burning in the state of California. We usually set up a base camp of operation. And what it does is provide a miniature city or a supply place.
David Clark, the information officer, says this is one of the smaller camps with over 700 personnel assigned to the River Fire. After they're done working their shift on the fire line, firefighters return to their hotels, while some set camp out here.
We normally provide a hot dinner for them and a hot breakfast. Lunch is provided in the form of a sack lunch. So lunches are usually taken with the crews out on the fire line, but dinners and breakfasts are provided here at a hot meal at the feeding operation.
Contracted fire personnel and security are also here. At any given moment, all 744 personnel would transfer through for meetings, supplies, or food. For this mobile kitchen unit, it's partly staffed by inmates.
And like I said, I can attest to the quality of the meals is top notch. These guys do not mess around when it comes to food. It's very good. It's very, very, very well prepared.
Although a vital part to the firefighting process, Clark says base camp services are usually overlooked in the public eye.
They don't know all the logistics and the nuts and bolts of extinguishment of a fire. It's a lot of working parts.
He says every job, as small as it seems, plays a huge role in firefighting.
Maybe an oven missing or a propane tank missing, which would delay feeding hundreds of firefighters.
Clark recommends the public to have an emergency go bag in California in case there's a need to evacuate at a moment's notice. The river fire is expected to be contained by August 13th. Reporting in Auburn, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Coming up, North Korea makes threats over joint military drills between the U.S. and South Korea. Those drills include computer simulations. Stay tuned to find out more. North Korea issued a new threat today. The communist regime warned that South Korea and the U.S. would face an even greater risk to their security after going ahead with their scheduled joint military drills.
The US and South Korea will face new security threats for going ahead with annual joint military drills. Those are the words of Kim Yo-jong on Tuesday, sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and herself a high-ranking official. A statement from her ran on North Korean state media, where she called the drills unwelcome and self-destructive. Kim Yo-jong accused South Korea of, quote, treacherous treatment shortly after a hotline between Pyongyang and Seoul was reconnected in a bid to ease tensions. The South and the US began preliminary training on Tuesday and start wider-scale computer simulations next week. Nearly 30,000 US troops remain in South Korea, a legacy of the Korean War that ended in 1953 with an armistice instead of a peace deal. A US Department of Defense spokesman declined to comment on Kim's statement Tuesday. A spokesman for South Korea's defense force also declined to comment on the drills, but said the two countries will still discuss the timing, scale, and method of the regular exercises.
The southwestern province of China was hit by heavy rain over the weekend. Again, the local authorities discharged water from reservoirs during the night without warning, giving people no time to evacuate.
Heavy rains drenched some parts of China's southwestern Sichuan province over the weekend. The downpour combined with released water from nearby reservoirs, causing major floods there. Local shops now submerged underwater. Store owners are seen attempting to rescue their goods. The high water also stopped many cars in their tracks, leaving them stuck in the streets. Buildings also took damage. Rains in the area stopped on Monday, but water is still a problem. Many places are still impassable. Concerning flood reports are also coming out of Dazhou City inside Sichuan province. Residents there say water was released from nearby reservoirs in the middle of the night, sparking the flood and leaving locals no time to evacuate. While over in Dazhou City, several counties are reportedly among the worst hit.
There was a heavy rainstorm, and the reservoir discharge happened at around 1 a.m. When the torrents came, there was no way for the people to escape. It's a disaster and caused great loss. Water rose almost 7 feet deep, 2 meters, and washed away a lot. Hundreds of shops are gone. There's nothing left. Now the water recedes. The roads are broken, with no water, no gas, no electricity.
Videos show people shouting for help as currents threaten to wash them away, but daring rescues pull through at the last minute.
There's a reservoir, and it was discharged without warning. Some villages were in severe condition yesterday because the torrents were too strong, and some houses were destroyed.
Dazhou residents say at least several dozen counties were struck by floods, with almost 1 million people affected. Many were washed away. But China's state-run media outlets say otherwise. Reports claim just over 120,000 people were victimized, and that no deaths have been recorded so far.
Up next, Neanderthal cave paintings in southern Spain reveal that they may have been more sophisticated than previously thought. The reddish clay pigments they used reveal more. And an 83-year-old Belgian owns an amazing amount of some 60,000 vintage tin boxes. Her collection is now large enough to occupy 4 houses. All that and more here on NTD News.
If you're like most of us,
You're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
Peace comes from within. I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. The human body is the temple of God, and religion is the experience of God within yourself. Are you ready to discover the truth within yourself? Book an appointment now at divinelight.com.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
NASA's Perseverance Mars rover team is troubleshooting a failed sample collection. Perseverance was supposed to collect a rock sample for the first time and returned with nothing. The agency says no rocks or dust were collected. The rover is supposed to pull samples using a robotic arm with tools to drill into the ground. NASA says data indicates the tools were used as planned. A team is now assessing what went wrong. They don't know when the rover will try to grab another sample. NASA says first, they need a better understanding of what happened. Europe's space agency is preparing to launch a mission to explore life on Jupiter's moons. The long-distance 7-year trip will begin next year. Here's more.
In the Netherlands, at the European Space Research and Technology Center, 4 weeks of vital testing are successfully complete. That's ahead of a mission to Jupiter. The spacecraft built for the trip is called JUICE, or Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer. It's undergone thermal extremes to prepare for its 7-year journey to our solar system's largest planet. The facility's large space simulator mimics the conditions of space. Inside Europe's largest vacuum chamber, liquid nitrogen panels cool down to around -300 degrees Fahrenheit, while lamps and mirrors combine to heat up to nearly 500 degrees Fahrenheit.
And in this case, we simulate the heat of the sun while the spacecraft goes through Venus. Why Venus? Because the JUICE mission is doing a flyby in Venus before going finally to Jupiter.
The spacecraft will use both Venus and Earth as gravitational slingshots for its long journey. Once it reaches its destination, JUICE will study the gas giant for over 4 years, including its atmosphere, magnetosphere, and some of its 79 known moons. Galileo discovered one of them with his telescopes in 1610, which was later dubbed Ganymede.
We are going to focus that on the 3 icy moons, which are Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. And we would like to know whether inside those moons there are conditions which are interesting for life. And we are going in particular to explore the liquid water which are underneath the crust of those moons.
Along with the moon's icy oceans, scientists say Jupiter's clouds and temperatures may have what it takes to support life. JUICE will explore deep into the atmosphere, searching for those signs of life. To ensure the mission's success, the team has months' worth of more testing planned for the spacecraft before it's ready for launch.
It's not like
for aircraft. We can repair something after a couple of hours of working. We need to make sure that before we launch, everything will work properly as expected.
Scientists hope the mission will reveal where in our solar system is ideal for Earth-like life, and perhaps further into other stars and systems in our galaxy.
A new scientific report suggests Neanderthals had a fondness for creating art. Based on cave paintings found in Spain, they may have been closer to our species of prehistoric modern humans than previously believed. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Reddish-brown pigment discovered on stalagmites in the caves of Ardales, near Malaga in southern Spain, created by Neanderthals about 65,000 years ago. According to a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences journal, the find possibly makes them the first artists on Earth.
There are always red marks made with iron oxide, applied with fingertips or with an airbrush. The dimensions they have are relatively small. Sometimes they don't reach more than 20 square centimeters. And many of them are simply punctuations made with the fingertips.
Modern humans weren't around yet during the time the cave images were made. The new findings add to increasing evidence that Neanderthals were not the unsophisticated relatives of Homo sapiens, as they've long been portrayed. They became extinct about 40,000 years ago. Pigments were used in the caves at different times, up to 15,000 and 20,000 years apart. They dispel an earlier theory that they were the result of a natural oxide flow rather than man-made.
These type of red marks that are in these folds are those that have been dated at more than 45,000 years and less than 65,000 years, and those to which pigment analysis has been carried out, which has shown that the type of dye applied is not natural, but a recipe that has come to the cave thanks to human contribution.
Dating techniques show Neanderthals had spat an earthy pigment made of natural clay and sand onto the stalagmites, possibly as part of a ritual.
I believe that this art made by the Neanderthals will be in other caves. It's very clear to me because this type of non-figurative art appears in many international caves.
Wall paintings made by prehistoric modern humans, like those found in the Chauvet-Pont-Arc cave of France, are more than 30,000 years old. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
How many tin boxes can one person collect in 30 years? According to one Belgian woman, nearly 60,000. Let's take a closer look at her vintage items.
Piled, stacked, and neatly displayed, these colorful boxes are one Belgian collector's unique treasure. At 83 years old, she now owns almost 60,000 vintage tin boxes, each featuring different lithographs. She stores many of them in this medieval watermill next to her home. Her collection began some 30 years ago.
I consider this box to be the first of my collection. It's a box of Côte d'Or chocolates that a relative of my husband gave me, believing I was interested in boxes, although I was in fact originally interested in the photos they may contain.
Dardenne didn't have to travel to add new additions to her collection. As her popularity grew, these boxes started coming to her. They used to contain products like coffee, tobacco, and shoe polish. Some came from places as far away as India. She calls this 19th century English box one of her greatest pieces. It's decorated with an intricate design, including an emblem with 2 horses.
This box is considered to be the first to have been lithographed. It's an English box from 1868 called the Ben George, and it was designed for biscuit maker Huntley and Palmer's.
When asked what inspired her collection, Dardenne explained it just happened naturally. Dardenne's collection is now large enough to occupy 4 houses. Her collection is open to visitors by appointment.
Next up, the story of U.S. gymnast and promising starlet Jordan Chiles. She just brought home a silver medal from the Tokyo Olympics and expressed pride for her country and Team USA. And a Belarusian athlete speaks out about life under his country's dictatorship, saying his team members were treated like toys. More on that in just a moment. An athlete from Belarus is recalling life under his country's leader, Alexander Lukashenko. His story brings renewed attention to the dictatorship in the former Soviet Republic. That's after an incident earlier this month when a Belarusian sprinter refused to leave the Tokyo Olympics. She then fled to Poland out of fear of repercussions in her home country. Here's more.
Handball coach Konstantin Yakovlev and his team won the Belarusian championship in 2007. But before their post-victory vacation, Belarus leader Alexander Lukashenko came to town. Yakovlev recalls how his team was forced to hold a pretend practice match.
He came. We had been waiting for him. It was a show-off. We had to put on full kit. Probably back then, we treated it as normal, but now I understand how weird it was.
Team members also weren't allowed to keep a copy of the photo they took with Lukashenko, reportedly because he didn't like the way he looked in the pictures. An avid hockey player, Lukashenko championed sports throughout his 27-year reign over the former Soviet Republic. But professional athletes were among the most prominent figures to oppose him. The result? Some were detained. Others were kicked off the national team.
He very much refers to sports as his own toy of some kind, and this toy began to resist him, so to speak.
Lukashenko unleashed a violent crackdown on street protests after winning a disputed election 1 year ago. Yakovlev joined the protest movement and added his signature to an open letter calling for a new election. But he was later detained for 2 weeks on what he called fabricated allegations. This month, he moved to Ukraine with his 3 young children.
I want very much to live in my country. I want very much to return there. But while fascists are ruling the country, it is not safe for me and my family.
Athletes living under other dictatorships are also suffering. In China, a 14-year-old gold medalist said her motivation for winning the Tokyo Olympics was to earn money to treat her mother's illness, a reflection of the country's dismal economic situation.
On Friday, the U.S. women's beach volleyball team beat Australia in the final to win the gold medal. They visited the Empire State Building in New York City when they returned to the States. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
NTD spoke with gold medalists April Ross and Alex Kleinman on the observation deck of the Empire State Building. This was Ross's 3rd Olympic Games to compete in.
There weren't any fans in Tokyo, and so we really felt everybody here watching, sending their love, sending their support. So I want to say thank you to everyone.
And this was Kleinman's first time at the Olympics.
The whole experience in the village was just pretty magical for me, and even before winning, I was having just such a great experience, and then to obviously get the gold, it feels surreal, and sometimes I have to pinch myself and ask, is this real? And it's been so fun to come home and share our medal with friends and family and, feel this warm reception from everybody.
The two teammates said the heat in Tokyo was much worse than anywhere in the United States.
We managed to do okay. We had a lot of help. We wore ice vests and warm-ups. We had like an ice bucket on the bench and slushies.
We did some sauna training even, where we would go in the sauna a few times a week to try to, get our bodies to acclimate to the heat. So we knew that it was going to be very hot, and we did everything we could to prepare. And then once we got there, it was just about doing our best.
The 2 Olympic gold medalists will continue to compete in the final for the Association of Volleyball Professionals in Chicago, and then a World Tour final event for the International Volleyball Federation in Italy. After that, the 2 beach volleyball players' season will be over, and they'll get a chance to rest. Jason Perry, NTD News.
American gymnast Jordan Chiles was given the honor of representing her country at the Tokyo Olympics. Her passion for gymnastics was rewarded with a spot on the women's team and later a silver medal at the Games. Here's what she had to say about the experience.
U.S. gymnast Jordan Chiles' star performance was not to be missed at the recently concluded Tokyo Olympics. There, she won a silver medal for the women's gymnastics team.
This is the medal that we won. We won silver. It's a gold in our hearts.
But she saw more than the medal in her hands after returning from Tokyo.
But this is something that it's my shield. It's a shield.
During the Games, the U.S. team faced unique challenges posed by stringent COVID-19 restrictions. For weeks, athletes had to wear masks and stay isolated from friends and family. But Chiles appeared energized by the opportunity to compete for national pride.
There was a lot of things that were going on throughout the whole time of us being there, but I was really excited. I was honored to represent Team USA, and
Chiles described her journey with the Olympics as full of curveballs. The 20-year-old athlete was chosen for the team thanks to her consistency, but during the games, Chiles made a handful of mistakes and fell twice. Later, she pulled off a solid bars routine and drilled her balance beam set. Chiles talked about the struggles some Olympians were going through.
as athletes, mental health is something that we truly have to focus on because we go through so much, even behind the scenes. There's a lot of things that we do that can trigger our brains to not be able to function in the gym because of something that happened outside of the gym.
Chiles plans to work towards perfecting her craft as she attempts to make another Olympic appearance.
The experience was an amazing thing. I definitely would say I would do it again. I would do it again.
American star Simone Biles withdrew from the women's gymnastics team final competition following one rotation. Jordan Chiles stepped in to take her place on uneven bars and balance beam. The two are close friends and have supported each other over the years.
Organizers say former champion Andy Murray has been added to the main draw of the U.S. Open. That's after Stan Wawrinka withdrew to recover from foot surgery. Wawrinka captured the last of his 3 career Grand Slam titles at the 2016 U.S. Open. The 36-year-old former world number 3 underwent an operation on his left foot this year and has not played on the tour since an opening round defeat at the Qatar Open in March. Murray had hip surgeries in 2018 and 2019 and has only played a handful of ATP Tour-level events this year. He missed the Australian Open because of a positive CCP virus test, and he opted out of competing at the French Open. At the Tokyo Olympics, he lost in the quarterfinal doubles competition and withdrew from singles competition for medical reasons. On this segment of Strong Mind and Body, we've got a few tips on how you can cut the soaring costs of groceries at the store, saving money and stress.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Murray. Perhaps you've noticed the cost of nearly everything is going up. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index is predicting a very high inflation rate for 2021. Our annual inflation rate at the end of May was running at 5%. That is the highest rate since 1981. Let's revisit the most effective ways to cut the cost of groceries and then make sure we are practicing them with determination. Start by shopping the sales. Check grocery ads for specials, then base your week's meals on what's on sale. The closer you can stick to buying what's on sale, the more you'll cut your costs. Don't shop hungry. You will be compelled to buy everything in sight regardless of what's on your list if you arrive at the store hungry. Tip: if you can't avoid it, grab a protein bar on your way in. Leave the kids at home. You will stick to your shopping list and complete your mission with less frustration and stress if you fly solo. Cook from scratch. Cooking and baking using raw ingredients rather than those that are highly processed or prepared is one of the most effective ways to slash food costs. Pinch of salt. Sounds weird, but it really works. Add a pinch of table salt to a new container of milk when you first open it. Shake well to mix. Because salt retards the growth of bacteria that makes milk turn sour, just a pinch of it will increase the life of milk by days or even weeks. Drink water. Your doctor will love you and so will your food bill, as you replace carbonated sugary beverages with inexpensive water. Keep a pitcher of chilled water in the fridge. Rave about its wonderful qualities to your young children. They'll think it's a treat if you are convincing enough. Eliminate choices at meals. Find yourself making a variety of menus to please everyone at the table? It might be time to move to a single menu. Let the family know that from now on there will only be 2 choices. Take it or leave it. Consider generic and store brands. Some generic items are awful and others are exactly the same product as the name brand. Do some experimenting, especially if your store offers satisfaction guaranteed. Shop the perimeter of the store. This is where you will typically find the produce, meat and dairy. The center aisles are the prepackaged and pre-processed high-priced items, aka the danger zone that's terrible for your health. And finally, creative procrastination. Even if you think you must get to the supermarket because there's nothing to eat in the house, wait, hold up. Pretend you're stranded on an island with truly nothing to eat but what you have in the pantry, refrigerator and freezer. Chances are pretty good that you'll come up with something using what you have already, thereby putting more time between shopping trips.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a